Councillor Drawn, are you on the line there?
Yes, I am, Mayor Brown.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Councillor McCabe, Jason, did she send you an email to?
She was going to try it.
Okay. And Councillor Beck, have we heard anything from Councillor Beck? Okay, he might be coming late. That's not Councillor Beck. Okay, call to order. We acknowledge that we acknowledge and appreciate the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq First Nation. Any declarations of conflict? None? Okay, on the agenda, we have two items. For A, 115 Deacon Grove Lane and Murchison Land, PIN number 425892. And I think Coles is here to make the presentation, Coles Associates. And 145 Richmond Street, PIN number 340422, which is the Confederation Center, correct? Okay. And for the 115 Deacon Grove Lane, Laurel Palmer Thompson will make the presentation. And Darren Dunsford from Coles Associates will be here to broaden the scope of the presentation. 145 Richmond Street will be David Gundrum, Manager of Development and Planning, and Steve Bellamy and Andrew Sprague are here for representing the Confederation Center of the Arts. So we are back to in-person meetings at this time. We do have options for anyone that wishes to call in or participate via Microsoft Teams. The meeting is also live streamed by YouTube and it's archived. So if you go to YouTube, City of Charlottetown, you'll see the presentation of any of our meetings that are live streamed. And it's easy to get to, www.charlottetown.ca/video. So this evening we have the Deputy Mayor Alana Yankoff here, Councillor Bernard, Councillor McAleer, Councillor Ramsey, Councillor Matart, Councillor Tweel, Councillor McKinnon, and as I said, Councillor Duran is calling in. I don't see any of the board members here. Oh, Councillor Beck is here. He has arrived. Good. That's all right, Councillor Beck. So I'm going to call on the Deputy Mayor, Alana Yankoff, to briefly go over the order of events. Deputy.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and welcome everybody here this evening on this nice warm summer evening. Just to go over the process, I'm sure most of you are aware of it. There'll be a brief presentation by staff and the applicants. After the presentation, any folks that are here from the public are given an opportunity to speak. Each participant is provided with 5 minutes each to which they can provide comments or ask questions of clarity. We will start first with the members of the public in the room, then we'll proceed to anyone that is joining in via phone or Teams this evening. Council members are permitted to ask questions of clarity, but, just remembering that we're not here to offer opinions. It's really just asking clarity from our planners when they are presenting the applications this evening. And again, we just ask for decorum, respect. If somebody's speaking, just wait until they're done. And other than that, I just want to thank everyone who's here and anyone that's calling in and anyone that's just listening in. And I'll now turn it back over to His Worship.
Thank you, Deputy. Again, a reminder, if you do come to the mic to speak, you just have to give your name, no address, Charlottetown, Sherwood, just to indicate what part of the city. And I think we will start with Laurel Palmer Thompson, Planner 3, to present 115 Deacon Grove Lane and Murchison Lane.
Where's the agenda?
Laurel? Thank you.
It's not in my OneDrive.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, ladies and gentlemen of the public. This is an application for 115 Deacon Grove Lane and Murchison Lane, PID number 425892. It's a request to amend the approved development concept plan for the parcel identified as PID number 425892, and the current development concept plan was approved for the subject property by resolution of council on September 14th, 2020. Requirements outlined in the zoning and development bylaw for changes to a development concept plan. So 41.2.7, before council approves or amends a development concept plan in a CDA zone, a public meeting shall be called in the same manner, mutandis mutandis, as if an amendment to this bylaw were being considered. 41.28, changes to a development concept plan that do not change the approved intent of the use or lot, such as minor additions to a building, a lot subdivision or consolidation, will not be considered an amendment to the development concept plan and may be approved by the development officer. And that is the reason why we've brought this application forward, because it consisted of a change, a significant change. So property details. The subject property is approximately 32.7 hectares, so 81 acres, and it has frontage along Murchison Lane, Prom Acadian Drive, and Deacon Grove Lane. To the north of the subject property are lands owned by the French Language School Board that are within the institutional zone. To the east and south are the subject property, of the subject property are the Hillsborough River, and to the west are lands within the institutional zone that contain the Queen Elizabeth II Hospital. So details of the request. Specifically, the request is to allow the development of a community health center, and the amendments are related to siting of the buildings and location of parking facilities. Outcomes of the proposed amendment. The amendment removes buildings A to E and consolidates all of these proposed buildings into one building. So consolidating these buildings will remove the urban streetscape model. The building will be set back farther from Deacon Grove Lane, and parking will be visible from the street. So I'm just going to quickly flip to the plan. So this is the current site plan with the proposed community health center. There was an amendment in November of 2023 for the hospital property. So it would have been this building and the hospital. Originally, there was supposed to be parking here, so the amendment at this time in November removed one building and put parking to the north of the property. And now this is what it will result in to the north. So essentially, all of these buildings will be removed down to here and will be replaced by the Community Health Center, one building. So legislative requirements. In accordance with Section 3.10.4, amendments to the bylaw and rezoning of the zoning and development bylaw, on May 14th, 2024, City Council approved the request to proceed to public consultation. On June 13th, 2024, written notification was sent to property owners located within 100 meters of the subject property. In total, 7 letters were sent to residents advising them of this public meeting and requested their written comments. To date, we haven't received any responses to the notification letter. And I am going to turn the presentation over to Darren Dunsford from Coles Associates to answer more questions on the details of the project. Darren?
Just while he's getting set up, okay, you're not going to use the mic there, you're going to use, that's wherever you wish, sir. Just also want to remind the audience that our CAO is here, Eleanor Mohammed, and Mike Roos, who is our Director of Integrated Growth, that's responsible for planning and development. Okay, sir?
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Thank you for your time this evening, and thank you, Laurel. I'll just provide maybe a little bit more information about the project being proposed. The building itself is a 2-story, flat-roofed building. The footprint is approximately 25,000 square feet. It houses mental health and addictions treatment facilities on the ground floor and primary care facilities on the second floor. It's considered a medical office building. The setback to the elevation closest to the street. So that would be to the south of the building is 6.1 meters to the property line. To the center of the Deacon Grove Street is approximately 17 meters. The We have a couple of renderings of the building from the street, just to give a sense of the appearance. The intent is to tender this work over 2 phases. The first phase would be site preparation and building envelope, and the second phase would be interior fit-up. The site consists of approximately 300 parking spaces. Roughly half of them would be for staff, and that's to the west of the building, and the public parking to the east of the building. There's a drop-off lane at the main entrance and staff entrance at the northwest corner. And on screen is currently a view towards the main entrance of the building, so that's looking towards the northwest. And this is a building from the street, closer to Acadian Drive, looking back towards the building from towards the northeast.
Which street?
Both of these views are from Deacon Grove Lane. So the view on screen right now would be if you were standing in the middle of the staff parking entry, the entry to the staff parking lot. And this view is approximately at the entrance to the public parking lot. The cladding of the building is a combination of brick and various steel claddings. Windows are a combination of vinyl triple glazed and aluminum triple glazed. There is an allowance for solar panels on the roof. There is a tree line along the property line between our site and École François Biot that would be maintained in place, and there would be supplemental plantings along Deacon Grove and Acadian Drive. That's, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to provide more information.
Is the Patterson,
Yeah, you know what, can we just ask you to go to the mic if you don't mind? Or we can take it down to you. What do you prefer?
would be easier for me to chair?
Yeah. Can someone, Andrew, she can just sit there. What? Okay.
Okay. Just noticing.
Just before we ask questions, the CAO has made a request that, does the staff, Laurel,
The process is usually your developer presents,
right?
and then the staff present, and then you open the floor.
Right.
To the feedback and questions.
Right, so the staff did present, the developer presented.
Yeah.
Now we're opening it to the floor. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Stella, could you just give us your name? I know your name, but just for the public record, and I know you're from Charlottetown. Is that all right?
Yes, my name is Stella Newman, and I'm at, better take a look to see.
Is it on?
Screen.
Okay, just put it closer to your mouth.
Okay, all right. My name is Stella Newman, and I live at 46 River Ridge Drive, apartment 405. Before I do my presentation, I ask a question, please. I notice, is Patterson Drive extension now turned into Deacon Grove Lane? So no longer to discuss Patterson Drive. Okay. All right. I am having a little problem trying to. Get that up. Sorry. I am having a little problem trying to find out where the C building, which is, I think, is your community health center, where the green grass is there, your second picture. Confused as to where that is in relation to how you've got it spotted there. Yes.
So Stella, I think you're looking at where it is right now. I'm looking at Google Map.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
He
we
has
don't
a-
have Google Map up there, so I'm trying to figure out where it's going to. Is that your question?
Yes. Just exactly where is that in relation to, and when we say Deacon Lane now that's all around the place, it's kind of hard to tell, in relation to Murchison Lane or Acadian Drive. The left part, is that facing the outside street? Pardon?
Where Patterson meets Acadian Drive,
Yes,
when you cross the street, you're on Deacon Lane.
yes. Okay, is that the first, that's not going to be the first house because we have two buildings there now.
They cross the street from those two buildings.
Okay,
Yeah.
so really it's across the street that's going to be sort of semi-adjacent to the French school then?
Exactly.
Okay, all
Yes,
right,
exactly.
I understand now where,
Yeah.
I didn't know where it was.
Yeah.
Laurel, is there something on the site map that can show that? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to visualize too.
Yeah. And where is the hospital going to be in relation to all of that?
That's the purpose one there.
You know, so.
Okay,
Right, so,
Do you have your pointer there that you can use, Laurel?
Yeah, I'll just.
Okay,
These
there.
buildings here are the ones that are being removed, and the community health center will replace these. These are the two buildings that Ms. Newman is talking about,
and they'll stay there?
and they're staying there. They're brand-new buildings.
Yes.
This is the hospital project that we did an amendment on in November of last year. And I think it's called the DESA building, Philip? Yeah.
It's a transition.
Yeah, transitional facility. So essentially, these buildings will be removed, and this is the parking lot that was approved in the previous amendment. These are still consistent to the current concept plan.
Where are the two new buildings that are built now?
Right there. on
There,
the left.
these two, right here and here. So this is Deacon Grove Lane, it extends down, it comes all the way down around the new hospital. The old hospital sits right here,
Okay,
and then it comes up and connects to Prom Acadian.
okay. So where is the parking lot? Is there going to be one nearest Acadian Drive for the community health center? Is that going to be sort of like where A and B is?
that's correct. That would be the staff parking lot for the health center.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they want to turn that building around so that there's nothing in front of it so they can see the water. Is that the idea?
No, that was the previous amendment, that was for the hospital. So the hospital previously was oriented straight like this, and the parking was here for
Right.
the hospital, the new hospital. And then it got turned during design, so that it has a better view out here to the harbor.
Yes.
And the parking lot was removed from in front of the building and from the side and moved to this part on the north side of Deacon Grove Lane. So now the new hospital property is completely unencumbered from parking, and it's just a grassed area with views to the harbor for the patients.
Okay. All right.
Is it a little clearer now?
A little clearer.
Dr. Newman and
I do
Stella?
have something I would like to say.
What's that?
May I continue?
Yeah, but can we just try to keep it to
Sure.
5 minutes? Just, I know, Stella, you have,
Do the best I can.
I know.
Can somebody hold my, hold the microphone? Thank
That's it.
Okay.
Dr. Newman, you're playing a good role there, Dr. Newman.
That's right. Okay. First of all, thank you for the CDA zone. The CDA zone. I have a feeling my new community in the Hillsborough area is not aware of what is going to happen on this Hillsborough Hospital property. No responses I don't think they understand. Everyone wants a new psychiatric hospital. Yes. And Addictions Acute Center care faculty was not really stressed or even possibly mentioned in the 2020 public meeting, or we may not have supported it due to the concern probably of the neighborhood. But then again, who knew the drug problem was going to get out of hand so quickly after that meeting? We were being sold on the social housing, etc. aspect. This is an unusual, rare request. It's off. I would feel if City Council would reach out to the residents of Patterson Drive, Acadian Drive, River Ridge Drive, and their subdivisions to give and get more input about this Hillsborough Hospital property and not label it as 115 Deacon Grove Lane before you make any more final decisions on this property. It may save you a lot of headaches in the future. Many of the Charlottetown and PEI residents do not have a clue where this property, 115 Deacon Grove Lane, is. Yes, many may not know 115 Deacon Grove Lane, but they do know the land as the Hillsborough Hospital property, and that was never mentioned on any advertisement notice of public meeting for this amendment. That's why I'm asking for that special request. So, city councilors, I want you to know there is a nice community that is going to be affected by your decision on what you allow on this property. It is a fair-sized community of apartments, seniors, nuns, children, young homeowners with families in the subdivisions around us, plus the French school next to this property. It is too soon to assess if these two new buildings and programs are successful. I have no problem with changing from several buildings to a bigger building and how it is situated, which is really the amendment. So things do change. I have read and understand most of the information and maps, but I do have a few questions. And you answered one of them, and that was the maps are not clear where each building is going to in relation to the Deacon Grove Lane and these new buildings that are already on the extended Patterson Drive. You did answer that, thank you. I could be wrong about my recollection of the original public meeting and what we were told was going to happen. Seems to be a little different in the intent of what type of health care is now possibly going to happen in the future in these buildings for the whole province. One can only surmise that with the increased drug addiction problems in the past 2 years or so has changed the province's direction. I understand that. What the problems at the Outreach Center on Euston Street and the Park Street site, although I hear it is doing much better, one cannot help feeling that this community health center may well turn into a treatment center for drug addicts should the Park Street site fail or get too big. Or is that going to be in the new psychiatric hospital? Since that first public meeting, I hope City Council and the province recognizes that this neighborhood now has 2 more new apartments buildings right across the street from the Hillsborough Hospital property with more children and seniors. In addition to 2 52-unit apartment buildings with seniors and some children already there all along with several subdivisions. With all of these children, the French school, the apartments, and the subdivisions, plus the many seniors with various disabilities in these apartment buildings, so close to this property, it is difficult to support to allow a community health center only if it allows in the future any drugs, drug paraphernalia, needles, etc., which could harm these citizens if found nearby outside the Hillsborough Hospital property. Thank you.
Stella, I think Councillor Bernard can agree with me. I think we did a site visit back in 2019. We're in 2024. I believe Wayne Walker and his team have had I know at least three public consultation meetings at Hillsborough Hall with the renderings for this new facility. We've had how many meetings, Laurel, for amendments to this? This is the third. Like, I know this has taken a long time, but it's 5 years. Like, hopefully this is the last amendment that we're looking at. Anyways, I'm going to open it up to the floor to anyone else, if you wish to. Okay, just give us your name. Just put it back there, Barbara.
Okay, not very solid. Can everyone hear me? Thank you. Barbara Dilla, Charlottetown. I didn't actually come for this, but there are some questions that occur to me as I look through the information here. So forgive me if it seems as though I haven't read it thoroughly, because to be honest, I haven't. However, I am looking at the actual land use and seeing that it's going from several buildings to one, which is perfectly fine. However, I'm wondering, is that one building going to encompass everything that was meant to be in those original A, B, C, D, E, whatever buildings? Is the size sufficient, or will it soon outgrow itself? And I'll add on, just so I give you the complete picture here, I guess, is that land use nowadays, we know that land is very valuable, and the idea is to use the land as efficiently as possible. So in this case, even though the same land mass is there is only the one building. Could the building be higher? Could it be made taller? Can we build up, as we are asking all the residential developers and builders and such to build up? Can the same be done for institutional and commercial buildings, etc.? The concurrent with that one building and the size of it is, even though the positives indicate the proposal is close to public transit, it does say more of the site is allocated to parking. Now, we all know that parking with asphalt creates a heat island. We're in climate change. Temperatures are going up. We need to eliminate as much as possible any kind of hard surface, also for stormwater management. So I'm just wondering, with transit, and there's a transit plan, and hopefully that transit plan will be implemented soon, and we'll get into that 5-year option A scheme, because we need it fast and we need it as developed as possible, as soon as possible. That then because of the size of this and with the hospital nearby, that there be an expansion then of the transit routes when these are done, and that there be transit stops here that are that are convenient to the users, the visitors, and the employees, and that the parking area be looked at perhaps a bit more critically, and either that there be good stormwater management put in there, or more green space, or that the land itself be used in a different manner, and also that there actually be space allocated. I don't know if it shows on here, but there be space allocated for a good transit stop, shelter, station, whatever it could be.
Mr. Dunsford, can you respond? I don't know about the transit, but you can respond to the building.
Sure. I know there is currently a bus stop on Acadian right adjacent to this property. So I know the intent is, yes, that public transit be broadened to the entire neighborhood. So I'm sure that's the objective for everyone. But yes, a bit outside of the scope of this particular project. I can just speak a bit to the height of the building. 2 stories. There are a lot of complex adjacency, like operational issues with a facility like this that don't work well when those functions are on different floors. That's mainly what led to the two-story version that we have here. There are two distinct programs in the building, and they can be on separate floors, and but going beyond two-story would complicate those operationally quite significantly. The building itself is designed as a Group D medical office building, so it is not and cannot be used as a treatment facility. So that sort of goes to the previous question about some concerns about maybe what future development or what future use of the building, how that might change, but it is a medical office building. The size of the building also, there are limitations based on the National Building Code for how the building is designed. So it has already been the footprint of the building has already been expanded to include some additional facilities. So that's kind of maxed out, is I guess what I'm saying to the site. It really isn't space on the site for it to get any bigger. So that's extremely unlikely to ever be an option.
Thank you.
Okay. What's that?
You speak once per.
Stella, you can get Dr. Newman to ask the question. We're just trying to streamline our. Dr. Newman, do you want to?
No, he doesn't know what I want to ask.
Okay.
I just wanted. Okay.
Your worship, councilors, I would like future.
Dr. Newman? You
pardon?
have to give your name and,
I'm sorry.
just for the public record.
Louis Newman. I belong to Stella, so we live at the same place. In
Thank you for
Charlottetown.
that information.
In future bits of information that come out, we have to be more specific about talking about Deacon Grove Lane, because the new part of it, which is really an extension of Patterson Drive, it runs more or less east. And then there's a right angle turn, and most of Deacon Grove Lane runs more or less south to Acadian Drive, to Murchison Lane, actually. And that's the biggest part of Deacon Lane. So when it's mentioned, we have to know what part of it is going to be. I do appreciate the new movement of the the new mental hospital, so that the people in the building can look at the river. I think that's a very good move. I was a little startled to see in this brochure that came out that a new 2-story mental health and addiction acute care facility and life skills center is going to go up. Now, I'm quite sure back in 2020, when this process started, there was no mention of acute addiction care. Or I don't remember any, and I would have objected at the time had there been. This makes me wonder if somebody is planning to move the acute care center for addictions from Mount Herbert to this site, or any of the treatment that's going on at the Park Street location now is meant to come to this site later on. I haven't heard anything about it. I'm startled that there's no psychiatrist here in this room tonight, which makes me think they didn't even know this meeting was going to occur. And I think some of them should at least be here. There's no one here in addictions treatment, as far as I know, I don't recognize anybody from there here, and I think this is vital information that they should be contributing to. For instance, in this new building that's going to go together from 2 or 3 buildings, I have no objection to that, but it's important that the people that are going to be using the building be here for such things as how the doors are hung. How the doors are hung makes a big difference to nursing and physician care. Things like that. How you get in and out of the building, how you manage the doors. Now, in the new buildings, they've already had a problem with some hazard to some of the people working in the building, probably because it wasn't planned well enough. None of these big projects get done without some errors and having to make some changes. I realize this, but it's a big mistake to go ahead with a big project like this, and none of the people who work in the building are here to comment on it. I'm sure they have obvious things that they've seen. It took me quite a while last night to figure out that this new building is going to be north of the new part of Deacon Grove Lane. And it's only 100 yards from the front door of the daycare center at L'École Francois Biot. I think that's a little close to children, to tell you the truth, since we don't know exactly what's going to be in that building. And I think those children deserve to have somebody speak for them. I'm also stunned that there's nobody here from the French school, since it's going to abut on this property. And I guess I'm saying I think this should be done over with better communication to those people. I thought of calling the French school today to ask them if they're going to have a representative, but I did not. I thought it was interfering. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. So, Dr. Newman, I've known of this facility right from the beginning. I think with the previous government, it was titled Mental Health Acute Care Campus. That's always what I've known it as by.
And this is just taking the 4 buildings to one.
Yeah.
So all those meetings and those
Just-
discussions and stuff, that already happened.
The word addiction was never mentioned. I'm quite sure addiction was never mentioned. It's a totally different barrel of fish. Acute treatment of addictions and other mental health treatment.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that the two mix very well. Certainly in the acute phases, I have no objection to the use of the 2 buildings that have been built, in which people are trying to get people back on their feet, learn some skills. I think that's very appropriate. The acute stage should be removed from children, I think.
Further comments? Okay. Mr. Dudsford, do you want to respond to some of his points?
Just, I think there may be a misunderstanding about the type of care we're talking about in this building. The word acute is not associated with this building. It is an office building. It's not an acute care facility. That's not what this is.
So would the acute care be the new Hillsborough Hospital? Yeah, so would that be the new Hillsborough Hospital, the acute care? Anyways, could I just ask, Laurel, do you want to? Do you wish to just give us your name, sir? I know you're with the team.
And maybe some misunderstand. Can you guys hear me okay? Your worship. Hello, everybody. What's that?
Just one sec.
Philip Jefferson. I'm actually with Health PEI. So I worked with Darren, who is the designer. This is a community health center, and there seems to be some misunderstanding here that we're talking about the south of the street. That has already been done, and in fact, Your Worship, it is, an acute mental health and addiction center, and has always been labeled thus, presented thus. That's not my project, but I've been familiar enough to know that. Darren rightly points out that the building that we're talking about here is a community health center, the same way you see a community health center anywhere else in the city. We have our primary care folks in there. We're bringing key community services directly into the community on a bus route in a great location, really on a healthcare campus when you start including Queen Elizabeth Hospital, the Palliative Care Center, all the great trails out there, the new acute care mental health and addictions hospital, all the transitional facilities related to those, and now, a traditional community healthcare center. So that's what this building is, because as everyone in this room probably knows, we have a huge population growth, and we just don't have enough of those providers in the community to see all our clients. So Darren actually worked on our first community health center that we rolled out in Alberton. A lot of really great things in that one. If anyone gets a chance to go to Alberton, that's a real game changer. He brought a lot of that kind of insightfulness and great design into this one, and I think it's going to be, really a cornerstone for the community in that area. Great building, great facility, great opportunities. I actually worked for Department of Transportation when we were originally developing the south side of that with Wayne Walker's group, and all those buildings, A, B, C, D, E, F, those were future. We knew that something would happen on the north side of that street, but really we only knew the exact buildings that were going on the south side of that street. What we did know about the north side of the street, however, was that it was going to be a sympathetic type of development for this facility. So it was going to be things like, pharmacies or, housing or healthcare centers and things like that. So with this building, in place of all those little ones, which are just populated there to really say something is going to be on this north side, that's the development that we've brought there. So I think it's a development that people should be really excited about. And I'm sorry if there's been any sort of misunderstanding of which part of the site we're talking about. We're talking about a community health care center, not the acute care stuff that's already been addressed. And I think those developments have gone through.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I look, as I said, 2019, that's when we did the site visit. I think, Philip, you did the site visit with us. We walked through the woods and the marshlands, and we didn't walk the 85 acres, but we'd walked quite a bit. Any questions from council members for clarification? No? Yeah. So A, B, C, D, E, F, Darren, they'll become amalgamated into one building, 25,000 square feet, is that right?
I believe it's A through E.
A through E. Okay. A through A. Yeah. Oh, it's 50, I thought he said, oh, okay, so footprint's 25, and it's 50 with, okay, times two. Well, that's great. Yeah, it's been talked about a lot. I just hope we can get boots in the ground, shovels in the ground, let's get her going. Let's get her done. Good?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Stella. Thank you, Dr. Newman. Thank you, Darren. And thank you, Philip. Okay. Item number 2 is 145 Richmond Street. We have our manager, David Gundrum. Good to see you, Mr. Manager. How are things out in Wheatley River?
Oh, they're
Good,
coming
good.
along.
Is Wheatley River? Kensington. Oh, he's in Kensington. Oh, okay.
Kensington.
Kensington.
Close.
And Mr. Bellamy's here, so Mr. Bellamy, if you want to take the other mic, we'll have a matching from both sides. Do you want to start there, David?
Sure. Just wait
Please.
for the presentation there. Okay, good evening, Your Worship, members of council. The following application concerns property addressed as 145 Richmond Street. PID 340422. And this is an application for a site-specific exemption to the zoning and development bylaw that regards the Confederation Center on the subject property. More specifically, this is a request for site-specific exemption to allow signs that project a business name, image, or advertisement onto a building or any other surface from a source external to the sign, and also to allow for animated and video signs on the subject property. As per section 47.3.1 I and L of the Zoning and Development Bylaw, these type of signs are prohibited. With regard to legislative requirements, in accordance with section 3.10.4, amendments to the bylaw and rezoning of the Zoning and Development Bylaw, on May the 14th, 2024, City Council approved a request to proceed to public consultation concerning the application. Subsequently, on June the 12th, 2024, written notification was sent to property owners located within 100 meters, 328 feet of the subject property. A total of 91 letters were sent to property owners advising them of the public meeting tonight and to request their written comments and feedback. To date, there have been no written responses that have been received by the planning department. The subject property at 145 Richmond Street is located between Richmond and Grafton Street. To the north and to the south and the north rather, and fronts onto Queen Street to the west. The subject property is located in the 500 lot area and is within the Parks and Cultural PC zone of the Zoning and Development Bylaw. Subject property is surrounded by a variety of commercial, institutional, and residential uses in the downtown. The Confederation Center of the Arts occupies the subject property shown here. It is a National Historic Site which was constructed in 1964 and utilizes a brutalist architectural style which was popular during the 1950s and 60s. Several permits have been issued for renovations and signage for the Confederation Center over the years. With respect to the official plan, under section 5.3, an objective of the official plan is to continue to support and work with the Confederation Center on those initiatives which will further strengthen that institution and its important role in the city of Charlottetown. Our policy shall be to support the Confederation Center's mandate to collect, interpret, and promote Canadian culture and heritage. Our policy shall be to support any efforts by the Confederation Center to broaden its mandate or to extend its summer season. And our policy shall be to work with the Confederation Center on projects which will contribute to the vitality and efficiency of the downtown in Charlottetown. Following images on the screen show the intent of the application. So projected images onto the face of the building during the winter time, and video screens which are shown here. Planning and Heritage Department is hereby soliciting comments and feedback from the public, from council and members of the public tonight concerning the following site-specific exemption for the subject property located at 145 Richmond Street, PID number 340422, which is asking to consider permission to allow signs that project a business name, image, or advertisement onto a building or any other surface from a source external to the sign, and secondly, to allow for animated and video signs. The next steps following the collection of public and council feedback and comments this evening would be a recommendation and resolution being forwarded to the Planning Board and Council respectively on the following upcoming meeting dates, Planning Board being on July the 18th. Subsequently, a resolution is planned to be forwarded thereafter to Council at their next available date on July 23rd. So that is a summary of the request and the application, and just a quick overview of what the next steps would be in the immediate future, and I'll hand it back over to the chair, council, and members of the public for any questions that might come up. So, thank you.
Mr. Gundrum. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bellamy, do you wish to provide some points of view?
Yes, thanks very much, Your Worship, and thanks, Mr. Gundrum. Thank you to Council for the opportunity to be here. And also thanks to the city for being a partner in seeing that Confederation Center keeps active for the community. I would like to just add, so a number of years ago when we found out that the library was in fact moving, we did a space needs assessment in part to determine what should go on in the library, and council has heard me and others present over the last few years about some of the results of that space needs assessment, most of which were things around accessibility and the carbon footprint of the center. We're trying to address those in part through the major renovation project of the former library. However, another challenge that came up during that space needs assessment, though, was clearer signage and messaging for the public, for the community, for visitors to the center. Those of us that have lived here a long time and know what the center is don't think of it often, but for a visitor walking by, it isn't actually that clear what the center is when someone's walking up Queen Street from a ship or walking along Victoria Row for the first time. These are very large concrete walls that don't clearly mark what goes on inside. And when we looked across the country at what arts centers are doing, video is absolutely becoming the norm, as you've heard me present before, on signage, not only in the arts and culture sector, but for sports facilities as well. Video signage just much more quickly conveys what goes on inside the building, what the building is about. You can convey that in an instant. Whereas right now, the signs on the right-hand image there that's being shown, we are limited to still pictures and text. And so, of course, with text, you have a language barrier for some, and you also, it just takes a lot longer to get the information into someone about what goes on in the building. And so, you know, video is a critical tool for a culture center to communicate what the building is, what goes on inside, and to make everyone feel welcome. As an example, we would much rather show a 3-second clip of Anne of Green Gables, the musical, rather than all the text about the show coming up tonight. So the one exemption, 47.3.1 L, is pertaining to that. We would like to be able to show video on that screen and not just text. We also would like to show it on the south, like as part of that new renovation as well, so in a similar way. And then 47.3.1I is for the projections, which, as demonstrated here, already happens. This is a partnership with the city, so the city actually approached us for permission to project on there, and we absolutely support it. We think it's an effective way of brightening up the community and bringing folks together. So we just would like formally to have that exemption in place. And also, we're an arts organization. You know, it is true that from time to time, artists may have a projection as part of what they do. In fact, my first year here, which was going on 6 years ago, was the tail end, I think, of a 3-year stint of a projection, video projection work on the back of the theater from Vic Row. There were actual films shown there at night. Technically, I guess that wasn't supposed to happen, or maybe there was an exemption for that project, I don't know. But those are the types of things we're talking about here. Projections that are done in partnership with the city and the community, or as part of art projects, and then video in place where we're only allowed to do text at this point. So that's just a bit of context for the request.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bellamy. No words, Andrew? You left it to the boss? Any feedback, comments?
Just sorry, I neglected to say I'm Steve Bellamy from Charlottetown.
I think we knew that, but thank you for doing that.
Good evening. Andrea Battison, Charlottetown. Thanks for the opportunity. I'd like to take first little quick moment to make some comments. Again, on notification, as again, the city puts notices in the paper and directs us to a website to find information, and the letters direct us to a website for information. But that information wasn't available until yesterday. And so I'm not surprised people perhaps don't, there's no comments to the letters here. So I encourage council to consider posting the May 7th report for this meeting as soon as possible so people can have a look at it. So that was comments about this project. So I have been watching some of the meetings, Planning and Heritage Committee, where they presented planning staff on digital signage and electronic signs. And that was a very interesting presentation December last year and March 25th this year, where it was very clearly shown by planning staff that these types of signage is very distracting for drivers. There's safety issues. Public Works was strongly against it because it goes against all their hard work about not having distracted drivers. And the police were also against animated signs. And it was during that meeting that it said, but for this center, we're going to need to get a site-specific exemption for that. So I, having watched that and looked at the site, I see that it's a very busy corner, especially this time of year. It's downtown, it's full of pedestrians and vehicles. Many are visitors that are unfamiliar with our streets and our intersections. And so when you start putting distracting videos and 3-second movies, are you increasing the risk to public safety and traffic accidents? And so I'm curious to hear what Public Works and the police feel on that. I also have concerns for site-specific amendments because, as pointed out in this report or at a meeting, these are permanent. And so right now, as has been explained, when there's a request to put some type of signage on the building, that signage request comes to council and it's evaluated on a item-by-item basis, and so it can be evaluated. With a site-specific exemption, this would give the center carte blanche. Anything and everything could potentially go on that building, and there would no longer be any oversight from my reading of this report. At least at the moment, there is some oversight. I notice also from the example that's put up there, I don't think that's promoting arts in the city. I think that's advertisement for businesses and a potential fundraiser. I'm not sure how that went, but that to me looks like business advertising. So I have concerns for safety and why we have a bylaw that clearly prohibits where these signs can go. And I think that this is a major part of downtown, and I'm not sure, at least in the presentation today, there wasn't any good reason given why this building should be allowed to create increased driver distraction with videos, moving signage. Today, and in the image we have here, we have very large images of what's going on in that center. Those examples show that there's plays and perhaps art exhibits. I'm sure the inside walls of the building, where it's safe and they're not being exposed to vehicle traffic, might be a good place to be projecting images, and maybe something could be done for that. But when you've got vehicles going, drivers and pedestrians are walking around these streets and they're not watching where they're going. On my way here today, people are walking against the sidewalk lights, the walk lights. They're looking around. And that's one more thing for them to be looking at and not watching traffic. And I'm curious, I didn't notice anything in the report where, in this report for this exemption, that referred to the December 5th, 23 and the March 5th, 24 presentations by planning staff, which clearly explained why digital signage is prohibited and why it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea across Canada. There was a request to look closer at Atlantic Canadian cities of a similar size, got the same result. So I think it would be very interesting to have a more thorough report and a review of having seen that report included in this request and in staff's review. And with that, I'll close at my 5 minutes.
Look at that.
And I got a timer. Thank you.
She timed it.
Good evening again. Barbara Dilla, Charlottetown. So the signage, and Mr. Bellamy, I understand what you're trying to say. I used to live in Montreal, and I'm trying to remember in Place des Arts how they evolved with different types of information to the public. The layout, I believe, is somewhat different in that everything is off the street and kind of on an internal square, sort of like a courtyard. So projections are more in versus being on St. Catherine or the adjacent streets. Here, I have to personally admit, well, I have to admit personally, that those two digital signs for me are disturbing. I have some difficulties with certain colors in the evening and at nighttime. I know other people have color sensitivities with their eyes, so that's something already with static images, which is I think what you have now. So on that particular corner, it was always a little disturbing. I think also with moving, if you want to have like 3-second clips, depending on what it is, some things, and I just heard this again recently, some of these things can be a trigger for someone with perhaps a certain condition, or again with a vision issue. What I would like to suggest, because again, I'm not entirely in favor of it, the placement as it is now. I agree with Andrea Battison that if it were inside somewhere that's a bit further away from the moving parts on the street, whether it's cyclists, pedestrians, or cars or whatever, might be to, and unless you've done this already, is to see what exactly do other arts centers do across Canada to get a bit of an idea. This has been done in the past where you've sort of looked around to see what the examples are elsewhere, to see, okay, well, if that's what the majority have, or what so many such types of buildings have, maybe we could try and look at something to that effect, because it is perhaps safer, more efficient, or leads you to what it is that you're trying to achieve. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bellamy, you're...
Sure. Yeah, if I
You're
can
on.
respond just to, and I really appreciate the comments and concerns, and they echo discussion topics through the process. I would say we did actually go across the country and look at what's been done. In the previous presentation to council, I showed a number of examples, particularly the NAC in Ottawa, which was the same architect as our building. And the National Arts Centre has undergone a renovation to one side of their building. And the entire building is video screen windows, and it's on a very busy street downtown. And we brought up that question, the distraction question, and as well as in Toronto, where you see similar things around AGO, Maple Leaf Centre, or whatever they call it now, and the very high traffic areas. What came back was more of a acknowledgement that it's sort of a relative density issue, that, you know, we more than probably most really respect the heritage role of Charlottetown, and we want to protect that, and nobody wants to turn it into Vegas or, you know, Broadway, at least not from a signage perspective. But the fact is that this site currently takes up a full city block, and it is concrete. So the relative proportion of the proposed sign to the entire site, in talking with, you know, these other buildings, is, it's one thing if everybody along the street has video. That can be distracting. And we said in Ottawa, in Toronto, have you run into problems, you know, or car accidents or buses or people getting hit? And they were, the response was no, but that they had talked about that. So I don't know, I guess I can share I should have brought it with me again today, but there is that NAC photo I think I had on the other one of their video screens. It's just to say that we have looked into it, and we don't want to cover it with video. The other one I would note is that in reference to the video on the left, I can't comment on the content because it's not Confed Centre. That was a city initiative there, but.
Anything from our David? You're all right with what was stated by Mr. Bellamy, or do you?
Yeah, through the chair, I don't have any conflicting statements to what Mr. Bellamy said. I think they're legitimate statements that make sense to reinforce the proposal that's being put forth. Again, we're not here tonight to provide any kind of recommendation. That'll be forthcoming at the future planning board and council meeting. So we're just here to listen tonight. So, yep.
Thank you for reminding us about that. Thank you. You have a question, Councillor Ramsey? No. Okay, no. Okay. Councillor Beck? Yeah. Oh, Councillor Drawn has one. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Steve and Dave. Steve, what is, I mean, this looks the one, and I'm more referencing the image on the left for now, but, excuse me, that looks like the Christmas festival announcement,
Yeah.
whatever it is, Downtown Charlottetown Inc. or Discover Charlottetown probably did it, I assume, or Confederation Court Mall, presented by, oh, there we go. It's kind of right in front of you. What would you see the usage for the center? You know, you talked about the screen on the right, the image on the right there with the ability to quick hit, if you will, segments of Anne, segments of Jersey Boys, segments of Dolly Parton, whatever other series you have. And I can see the merit in that. I just wonder what would this other wall be used for? What kinds of things could you potentially see it being used for? And I guess another question would be, how often would it be used? Like, would it be a monthly thing? Would it be a seasonal thing? Project specific related, or I'm just kind of I'm unsure. I don't really have many questions about the right. I'm okay with that. Just a little bit more elaboration on the left would be good for me.
Sure.
Mr. Bellamy?
Yes, I appreciate the question. It was Wayne Long that approached us to ask if we would be okay with a projection for Christmas. I believe the motivation was just to get the downtown to look more festive and feel more festive. So it wasn't really a Confed Center initiative. It came to us from them, and I think the city had, I'm just saying the city, because I know Wayne works here, but I believe they had clearly, I guess, got a lot of partners or sponsors to help pay for the projection. So I guess we've really included it in the exemption only because we see that there's a desire to do that, to help make the city more festive. We certainly don't have any plans to make large projection on the building a regular part of what we do. It's not a regular part of what we do. However, I say that knowing that just prior to my time being here, there was a 2 or 3 summer evening film project where there were movies on there, art movies. I think they had no sound associated with them, that were projected like from Vic Row on the back of the theater.
Yeah, there was sound.
Oh, there was sound?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, forgive me.
It was quietly used.
Okay, so there were sort of nighttime movies, but again, those kinds of things, I think there's great potential for partnership between, city events and the center, but I can't really claim to have any plans or hopes for major projections on the building. It's kind of not core of what we do.
Sure.
It's the video marketing of what we do to help visitors better understand what goes on that we're key with. If we didn't get the exemption for whichever one it is, IRL, to do the projections, we're just as happy for that to be on a piecemeal basis or like a la carte basis if somebody wants. If we have to work with the city or whoever to get an exemption per, it's just yeah.
So if that exemption were to go ahead, you could partner with whoever you felt was a good partner to work with on whatever project it may be it Downtown Charlottetown or Discover Charlottetown or the City of Charlottetown or some entity that really could be a good working project that you feel could be of either benefit to the Confed Center or maybe an accrued public benefit.
Yeah, anything that happens on the outside of the building, we're going to be very cautious about. We don't want to look like a carnival or a big billboard. None of this is about that. It's about being a good partner in the city. If we realize that the buildings have an enormous footprint, so we're interested in if the city wants to make it more festive, that would be nice if it's easy to do and we're able. But likewise, if an artist that's working in the gallery decides that part of their display is on the, I don't know, Vic Row side of the gallery or the Province House side to project something on there, that's a potential use, but I haven't seen that occur. I'm trying to imagine why we would want to project. The film project made sense, and I think the community appreciated it. But, maybe those should be discussed one at a time.
Sure. Good, thank you.
Councillor Bernard.
Thank you. No, I was just going to add, that's where we have our Christmas tree lighting.
Yep.
And, it's good a way to go and get that permission, and it certainly makes it much more festive in the Christmas season. So, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Councillor Dran?
Thank you, Mayor Brown. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. I can say, Mr. Bellamy, that presentation that's on around Christmas time or holidays, the number of people that drop by just to go and look at it, watch it. But if, for me, Steve, cell phone use in vehicles and walkers on their cell phones, that's a greater concern to me than this video issue right here. There's a issue with people that drive and are on their cell phones or just walking and not even paying attention. And I've seen it at that intersection, people walking right through on their cell phone. So, look, David, as you said, we're just gathering information. You and Laurel and the team will compile it and take it back to the planning board. Will there be an opportunity for anyone to submit comments, opinions? And I'll also ask the deputy to provide. Deputy?
Yep, we can receive additional submissions right up until Thursday noon. That's tomorrow, noon.
Councillor Twill?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Steve and Andrew, for being here tonight. A question was raised about following due process in terms of notification. The advertisements in the newspaper and getting the information out. Reference was made to the city's website. Were all the procedures followed?
Mr. Gundram, could you answer that, please?
Sure. Through the chair, Councillor Tweel, we followed all the prescribed procedures for public notification as per the zoning and development bylaw. Posting to the city's website, we're to post the meeting agenda a minimum of 24 hours before, but the public notification letters, physical posting to the property, and the required ads to the Guardian newspaper were all fulfilled as per the requirements of the zoning bylaw. So.
Just 1 second, go ahead.
Just to follow up, Steve, you talked about doing a jurisdictional scan right across the country. You referenced the NRC building in Ottawa. I've seen that building a number of times. If you look at the architecture, the 1960s, late 50s, early 60s, all due respect to that kind of architecture, I find it boring. I really do. Over the years, Confederation Center, your predecessors have worked hard to put up, banners or some type of tastefully done messaging to alert people as to, as you said, a lot of people walk by that building and don't even know what it is. It could be a hospital for all they know, in terms of what you're proposing here tonight, anything to get the messaging out, as long as it's tastefully done, it's not something you'd see Times Square. I don't think you're not promoting, that type of, digital signage. I mean, just something that is appropriate for our capital city, and particularly the heritage aspect of downtown Charlottetown. Certainly, the status quo is not working. And I recognize that, Steve, and I want to thank you again for being here tonight and for your diligence. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But it is I think we said during the Capital Cities conference there, was it this past spring or it was quite noted by the participants that we are very blessed to have such a cultural entertainment right in the center of Charlottetown. And Steve, you and the staff do a great job, including Andrew, do a great job promoting that facility. So everything will go back to planning board and planning department, then planning board. Deputy?
The process is it will return to the planning staff. They will create a report that will go to planning board. Planning board will see the report with a recommendation from staff and either support or not support it, and it will move on to council for council's final decision. And I would suspect you'll see that at the monthly meeting of council, the second Tuesday in July.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy, as Chair of the Planning, Development, and Heritage. Okay, thank you very much. Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
It was moved by Councillor Twill, second by Councillor Ramsey. Thank you, Councillor Ramsey.